Now, traditionally we have called these cookies painted cookies, and this is exactly why. I'm going to use a paintbrush to decorate this cookie. There's another method you can use with this same icing that I'll show in a minute, but for now this is how we paint a cookie. You can see I've thinned my icing. This may be a little bit runny, but it's going to work just fine. You just have to play with it a little bit and use it a few times and see how you like it. Everybody likes to work with a different consistency of icing, but this will work well for me on this. So I'm just going to get some on my brush, and I'm going to do the center of my little daisy here in yellow. And basically, I'm just going to paint it on there. Now you notice you're not actually doing brush strokes. You're actually just using the brush to push the icing around. You're not actually brushing it like this and making a clear glaze. You're glopping that icing on, because everyone knows that a lot of icing is best. And with these cookies, the thicker the cookie, the thicker the icing. So anyway, and that's all you do, is you put it on there and you push it around to where you want the yellow to be. Then that you would set aside and let dry or set for a few minutes. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to move right on to my white. Now you see my white, I've also thinned. It's a little tiny bit thicker than the yellow. I prefer it a little bit thicker when I'm working on the edges so it doesn't roll off the ends. However, if it does, you can still fix that, and I'll show you that too. Anyway, you just go back with the white, go right up to the edge, and again you just push the icing where you want it to be. And I usually try to stay about 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. That way, if the icing is a little bit runny, it has a little bit of room to run without running off the edge of the cookie. And it's really pretty easy to get a nice smooth line with the paintbrush as opposed to your typical icing spreader. And with this icing as well, the Karo syrup in the icing helps it keep its shape and its form, so that it's very easy to mold into place, and then it just kind of hangs out there. It's not difficult, and I'll push it right up against the edge. Now normally, like I said, I would have let that yellow set up a little bit better, but again, the syrup in this icing helps it keep its form, and it's really not going to run together too much. It's better to let it set for probably 10 minutes or so before you add a second color, especially if you're adding a dark color. Now if I were using black, this would not work, because the black would run right into that yellow because it's still wet. But with the white, I don't need to worry about that. Okay, and you can see I'm already halfway around. And you just go one petal at a time. If you find while you're working that your icing is starting to get too thick and too hard to work with, you just dip your brush in a cup of water, stir it around a little bit, and that will thin it out for you. You don't have to thin the whole thing, just the little area where you're sticking your brush in is fine. Now these do not taste nearly as well when the icing is wet as they will when it's dry. So have patience, control yourself, and let it dry for at least an hour or so before you eat it. When I make these for customers, I make them a day ahead. Let them dry overnight on my kitchen table, and then they dry rock hard and they can be stacked. It's like a hard glaze, and you can actually stack them on top of each other and it will not mess up your icing. And there you go. One white and yellow daisy. Got a few little holes right there. I'll just make sure that gets in there good. And we're good to go. Oh, I promised I'd show you what happens if you have a drip. If you have a drip, comes down the side of your cookie. I've had whole sides drip before, so don't worry about that. All you have to do is take your clean finger and wipe it off, and your cookie will, you can keep the nice shape of your cookie. There you have it.